Worldwide, there are more than 30 million people who are enslaved. Many of these are the victims of labor trafficking, where labor trafficking can be defined as a form of modern-day slavery in which individuals perform labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. Labor trafficking includes situations of debt bondage, forced labor, and involuntary child labor. Labor traffickers use violence, threats, lies, and other forms of coercion to force people to work against their will in many industries. Common types of labor trafficking include people forced to work in homes as domestic servants, farm workers coerced through violence as they harvest crops, or factory workers held in inhumane conditions with little to no pay. But what do we, as a society, really know about labor trafficking?
When I hear the words labor trafficking, I think of slavery, or just like moving people and using them for cheap labor. Yeah.
Nothing really comes to mind at first, but I do think about Mexican immigrants coming over the border and working in jobs that only get paid a couple cents an hour. That is usually not enough to live every day.
One country that has a lot of issues to do with labor trafficking is India. Every day you can read articles about the victims of debt bondage or domestic servitude and the horrible and cruel conditions which they have to suffer through. The increased coverage, however, has led to many more people being aware of this issue.
So I have heard about labor trafficking before. I'm from India and I've heard a lot of stories about it. So what people do is they go to like rural areas and slum areas and they offer jobs to uneducated people and they say like, oh, we'll take you to modern cities like Delhi and Mumbai and we'll give you jobs where you're paid $20 an hour. But then they come and they work as like servants and like workers and laborers at like construction sites and everything and they're paid like less than minimum wage. So that's what I think about labor trafficking.
Some common types of labor trafficking in India are working in the silk industry and in brick kilns, and it has been a huge problem in India for many years. However, since the International Justice Mission started their operations in India, they and their trained partners have secured for nearly 10,000 forced labor slaves and more than 800 victims of sex trafficking. They have also provided training to nearly 20,000 Indian officials and are seeing them respond with unprecedented mass enforcement actions against forced labor slavery on their own initiative. This way, the Indian government can continue to fight against labor trafficking for generations after IJM and their operations in the country.
More than 500 people living and working under a brutal, oppressive system. A few weeks later, the fields are empty, the mud huts vacant. A few personal belongings left behind, the only sign of what went on here.
As long as the media also continues to report on labor trafficking and making it known to the public, this is what will make the fight against slavery sustainable.